Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and today could potentially be the biggest day for me and my family in the last 10 years. This could be it, but I can't talk about it. I can't even talk about it in my member group, although when I do talk about it, probably in the next couple of days, it will be in my member group. And it's for us, it's great. I mean, it could be a massive day today. Massive day. Now I showed you this yesterday, potential IPOs of 2024. And it had Circle in here, and I was making the point that Ripple's not on here. But Circle, I wanted to mention because Circle, Link2 had tweeted out yesterday that they had just added Circle. They had run out of Circle, and they had added it back onto the platform. And as we know, they recently announced a partnership with SBI Holdings. And so now they've got Circle on there. I think I heard that they ran out of Ripple yesterday. So I think they have at least one of them on the platform. So anyway, okay, moving along. I like this tweet from Jungle Inc. because ironically, what's interesting about this tweet is he could be 1,000% right. As bad as Gary Gensler has been, as much vitriol has been thrown at Gary Gensler, deservingly so, as awful as he has been for crypto, what Jungle Inc. is saying here could happen in a second. People in crypto, I'll bet you, are extremely forgiving when those prices go crazy green. Gary Gensler can still be a hero for crypto. 1, get a Bitcoin ETF across the finish line. 2, do sweeping settlements with Coinbase, Kraken, Ripple. We would be set up beautifully for the coming crypto bull run. Or he can run out the clock on his tenure and face defeat and be probably the most hated regulator in the history of the United States. Which, he may hate himself enough to be comfortable with that. To do the things he's done and act the way he's acted, and to be okay with doing that, even if it is because you just have masters that have nothing to do with protecting investors, you must be a pretty awful person, I gotta believe. You gotta be a pretty dark soul inside to do the things he's done. Dark Defender. For XRP, we expected Wave 1 to hit 66 cents November 24th, Wave 1, 64.26, then Wave 1, 64.26 November, and we expect retrace after Wave 1. All of the above happened exactly as we discussed. The next is the third wave, which we are in now. Based on the actual structure, 64 cent XRP is expected to target the following: 75. 83 cents short term, target $1.05, revised to $1.03, hashtag free DAI on the chart. I don't forget, my friends. Dark Defender has a permanent spot on this channel for me to show his charts. When you're putting a hashtag free DAI, those are the people you find out who your friends are on rainy days, folks. Now, this is a commercial about the Ripple Ubri project, and I think Stuart Alderoty's the one talking.
Most technology takes 25 or 30 years to reach its full potential. We need those individuals to get through college, to university, to become engineers, to become great minds, to say, what can we do with this technology? It needs to start with education.
Ripple's Ubri program has become the largest blockchain industry academic network, producing some of the most robust research, thought leadership, and viable new tech startups in the world.
Ubri involves bringing the ventures, regulators, and academics together to figure out who has already solved which part of the problem so that we can really focus on the parts that no one has solved.
I think this is a great example that academia leads with new ideas, new technology, but industry actually can take it and make it real.
The advantage of students, professors, and industry coming to Ubri is that once you put lots of smart people together, unexpected things happen.
I feel supported by the Ubri community. For me, it's an opportunity to connect to other researchers that are working in the same field as me, but also learning about other projects.
Blockchain and fintech is a fast-evolving environment. Having researchers and academics in the same room connecting with the industry is the best way of fostering innovation.
We really need to beef up the pipeline. Education is where we get to do that. We need to excite the students, get the students to innovate, to hack, to build, to break. And that will determine how the industry will evolve.
Very cool. Now, check this out. You can this is the one of the guys from Medico. One day I'm going to learn how to say that. Medico is what I'm going to say from now on. Medico. I think that's the best way to say it. All right, they're talking about stable coins now. All the banks are going to have their own stable coins.
I think all banks are looking at this space. I'm based in Dubai right now. Every bank wants to know basically how to launch their own stable coin, or it's a topic they're looking at very much because there's a lot of efficiencies. Just the simple 24/7, 365 netting on all the time is a huge uplift from banks which aren't even mostly open the majority of the day, basically, right? So the settlement period, I think there's a lot of easy go-to-market in that one compared to launching equity, for example, on chain, which is still a long way down the road.
All right, and then this guy right here is the co-founder of Chainlink.
Every bank will end up having its own chain and even multiple chains and their own stable coin. And so all of the banks are now looking at making stable coins and making their own chains because it's a very basic transactional kind of primitive that everyone will need to transact around their specific bank's activity and that they will need to purchase assets from other places.
Okay, and then we've got, this is the CEO of Medico.
Acceleration towards this reconcentration of assets under custody in banking. We believe, and I think it's materializing right now, that this wide distribution that we have seen historically of digital assets being allocated across thousands and thousands of companies and billions of individuals will end up being statistically a lot allocated with a few large banking institutions.
I think what he just said is right now a lot of the digital assets are owned by a bunch of retail people, but the end game is going to be a lot of banks holding a lot of digital assets. And maybe some of that will be for people, but I think the banks are going to have it too. And Jamie Dimon, after 10 or 15 years of the government printing money left and right, while he and his banking friends sat on the sidelines and said nothing and let it happen and made tons of money off of it, probably billions, if not trillions. Just in, Jamie Dimon says the U.S. is addicted to debt. It's bad. We can't do this. It's created a dangerous sugar high in the economy. He points to the enormous surge of new debt taken on during the pandemic. Let me translate all this, folks. Now that me and my friends have all made money off of the money printer and all this stuff, now that we've made money for over a decade on this, and now that we know that probably the controlled demolition is in motion and we're about to collapse this thing into this new digital system, now I want to provide a little cover for myself and so I can say I called it. How about that? Now, I think this is important right here, folks. Mark Cuban, he's leaving Shark Tank after one more season. He's also selling a majority stake in for $3.5 billion in the Dallas Mavericks. They say he might be running for president, but I think it could be that, but it also could be that Mark Cuban knows that this whole system is about to shift into the digital asset world. He may be if I were Mark Cuban, you know what I would be doing? I would be preserving my cash and also making sure I had a ton of hard assets for what's coming and had plenty of cash for the coming tokenization of real world assets, because I think he knows. Now, he may be running for president. That could also be a thing. But I can tell you this, rich people, they go to cash when they know a disaster's coming. Warren Buffett has always been the master of going to cash, and somehow he figures out what's happening long before. In his early days, I think that it was his instincts and being smart. In his later days, I think that he's now warmed up to the government, so he knows what's going to happen before it happens, which I've always had a problem with, by the way. But by coincidence, yesterday, his partner, who was very anti-Bitcoin, Charlie Munger, died. And so I think it's a good especially for you young people out there listening to me, it's a good moment for me to give you just a brief, not a long, but a brief explanation of where I think Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger were really coming from in their anti-Bitcoin thing. First of all, you can't discount the fact that these guys, look, if Homeland Security met with the 4 Satoshis, which we have on video, you better write it down that these guys have been briefed on what exactly that was and what that meant. And so these guys aren't talking out of the side of their mouth. These guys are talking with knowledge that you and I don't have. That's part of the reason they stay wealthy. That's part of the game. But there are certain valid points that these guys have about, it doesn't matter if it's crypto or any technology. And I want to show you the bigger point, because Warren Buffett made the bigger point. For those of you that weren't around during the dot-com boom, he was not saying that some of the dot-com stocks and dot-com companies would not rise up and be big, and make people a lot of money. What he was really saying, now they may be saying that about Bitcoin, but what he was really saying is that he didn't invest in like new technology stocks, and the reason he didn't, and I remember a speech he did where he was making the point. He said when cars first came along, there were like thousands of new car companies, and in the end there was only 3 or 4. And he was basically just saying that we do value investing here. We're investing in companies that are already making money, and we can see how we can be paid a dividend, and they're being traded at less than what they're worth. That's how Warren Buffett invested. And here's a clip of Warren Buffett back during the dot-com. He caught all kinds of hell, folks. This is why I want to show it for you young people's sake. He caught maybe even more hell for not investing in the dot-com companies before the boom and bust than he has over crypto. But he was making that point. Now, I don't know that he's making the same point with Bitcoin. What I do know is what I've told you about Bitcoin is I've always had a concern that these guys are going to run this thing up and then pull the plug on it, because it can't be anything other than a store of value. They might not. Maybe they've decided to let it live in ETFs, but I think that the ETFs are probably more about controlling Bitcoin than anything. But the overall point for you is this. He's right. He and Charlie Munger are right that with any new technology, picking the winners and losers is a much tougher bet. Picking who's going to win is a much tougher bet than picking value stocks that are already making money and already big companies and are undervalued for whatever the reasons are at the time that they focus on. But that focus is primarily for people who are already wealthy to do that. In my opinion, the people that are trying to get wealthy have to take the higher risks. That's what I'm doing. I see, and this isn't like a question mark, you have to take bigger risks to get really wealthy. I mean, look at just about any billionaire there is. Look at Richard Branson. This guy took massive risks. Any of them. I don't care who the major wealthy people are. They took massive risks that a lot of people aren't willing to take, and the risks is what made them the fortune. Now, once they made the fortune, they probably started being a lot more conservative and doing more value investing and preservation of wealth type things, buying bonds that pay an income. Those are municipal bonds that are tax-free. Yeah, then. But this is Warren Buffett 15 years ago describing why he didn't kind of taught them. They're talking about this discussion.
Well, his record has been so good in general, in its entirety, that you don't see the mistakes that he made.
Guys, that's the best offering.
Most of those, I would say, are acts of omission as opposed to acts of commission.
One omission is tech stocks.
Absolutely hates tech stocks. If you look back at the tech bubble of the late 1990s, early 2000s, he basically stayed out of that completely. A lot of people actually criticized him and said he missed a tremendous amount of opportunities to find value in certain companies.
It's just not his thing. Buffett doesn't even use a computer at the office.
It's of no utility. I mean, all I'm trying to do is buy a piece of a business at an attractive price, and the computer doesn't tell me how to do that.
Not even Bill Gates has managed to win him over completely.
He spent 9 hours explaining Microsoft to me. Couldn't have been a better teacher. Couldn't have had a dumber student. But I still understood a fair amount of what he was saying, because he is a good teacher, and I bought 100 shares, but I got all through. That just shows you how many dumb things you could do in this world.
When the dot-com bubble burst, Warren Buffett didn't lose his shirt, and Berkshire Hathaway continues to make money for Warren Buffett, his shareholders, and Uncle Sam. Warren Buffett has paid his share of taxes since he was 13.
Okay, so you get the gist of it. I just wanted to show you that because a lot of young people and even old people didn't really understand exactly where they were coming from with some of this stuff. My dad taught me how to invest Warren Buffett style when I was a young man. In fact, I need to work on that with my 17-year-old. He's going to be going off to college in the next year or so, and I need to sit down and give him some investing lessons, because I know he doesn't sit down and listen to my channel. Okay, so I'm going to go into the member group, and let me tell you what, folks. First of all, at the end of it, in the member group, there is what I consider to be a stunning potential video and picture that I'm going to show you. I'm also going to show you what my biggest fear is that these bad guys are going to do to all of us from an investing standpoint. It is my number one fear, and I don't put anything past these people. I'm going to talk about the planned media barrage that I'm already seeing start. I'm going to talk about the you know who, the evil plans. These people are sick. And also we've got I'm going to repost we've started a Telegram group inside of my group, because that's a much easier way to kind of get in there and communicate. I even taught myself how to record my voice, like record me saying something and then put it in there yesterday. So I'm going to start doing more of that kind of thing in there. But it's at daixrp.com is where we're doing all this. So here we go.